the king of Fomo.
What's up, everybody? King of Fomo here, coming at you with your daily crypto update. All right, so we got a brand new smart contract releasing in about 5 days from the Oracle himself called True POI, True Proof of Influence. So this is another P3D type smart contract. I'm going to sort of demystify this for you guys. So I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on it, the good and the bad. As with everything in crypto, there's always some good stuff and some bad stuff to talk about. And so I'll just say in this contract, just to give you a little bit of a preview, there is one thing that I really do like about this. And then there's one thing that that's a little bit of a red flag, but maybe you can overlook it depending on your thoughts on things. And we'll also talk about the comparisons to Doge. I think they're two different smart contracts that are doing different things, but they're pretty similar in the fact that they're both P3D type of contracts. So you can sort of make your decision on whether you want to jump into both, jump into neither, or jump into one of the two by the end of this video. So let's get straight into it. Let's demystify this and talk about the stuff. So I've been in this space for a long time. I've done a lot of different P3D contracts. So I can sort of see some things that are coming when it comes to this stuff. So, if I'm an expert on anything, it's these smart contracts. All right, so this is, like I said, this is another P3D type of contract, 10% in, 10% out. So essentially, if you don't know what that means, you're not really buying a coin in a sense, but when you buy into this smart contract, you get dividends when other people buy after you. So you get Ethereum kicked right back to your wallet that you can withdraw. And you also, your stake that you have, the POI tokens that you get from this contract, also increase exponentially, well, kind of opposite of exponentially in value. And we'll talk about why that can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on when you get in. Now, just going down here, let's just read through the entire thing, and that way I can kind of hit all the points for those of you who are new to the P3D contracts and those of you who kind of know what's going on here. So 10% Ethereum dividends, we talk about that. So every single buy, you're going to get 10%. If somebody buys 10 Ethereum worth of POI tokens, then 1 Ethereum is going to be distributed to everybody else that has POI tokens evenly. 4% is going to be reserved for referral rewards. So if you use a referral link, you can use your own, you can use somebody else's. 4% of your entire buy is going to go to that referral upline. So this is the first thing I want to talk about. Well, we'll talk about that at the end. I'll talk about kind of one thing that can be gamed with these contracts that I'll be surprised if it's not in here, is baking in the referral code in the base website. So we'll talk about that towards the end. It doesn't really matter that much to you, but just for terms of legitimacy, it might be something you want to know about. And then 1% developer fee. It's kind of normal. 1% of the contract, every single buy is going to go to the developers to do developing things. And again, let's hit on that at the end as well, because for me, it doesn't really need to be there. You're not really developing anything when it comes to these smart contracts, but we'll talk about that at the end as well. So let's just save that for a little bit later. And then down here it says smart price technology. This is just telling you 10% in, 10% out, 1.1x. And then when someone sells 10 Ethereum worth of tokens, 1 Ethereum is going to be distributed to everyone else again. So that's a 20% overall that you're going to be distributing to everybody when you buy and sell in this contract altogether. We don't really need to read about these results. Secret wallets, there's going to be no secret wallets, staking dashboards, inflation tricks, roadmap lies, developer backdoors, or admin control. So that's good to hear. Once the contract gets launched and released, you can have people in the back end check it to make sure that none of that stuff is going to be in there. So because that's when the P3D contracts are popular, a lot of that stuff could be problematic. So it's good that that's not going to have any of that stuff in there, or at least it claims not to have any of that. Most of this other stuff I'm going to skip through because it's not really that important. You guys should know this stuff already. We talked about the ETH distribution. It's a smart contract. The distribution is potentially going to be fair. We'll talk about one of the red flags a little bit later. And fully transferred code, blah, blah, blah. Immutable, indestructible, can't be destroyed. Website can't be destroyed. We all know that stuff. As long as it's on the Ethereum blockchain, you can always interact with it. So that's why I like smart contracts. You don't have to worry about a person taking down the website. Now, this is the only, this is pretty much the only red flag that I have in the smart contract. So it says only 7 ETH is seeds at the contract launch. So with these P3D type of contracts, the one of the biggest problems is the seeded money. So it might not seem like a lot, and it isn't compared to a lot of other contracts that launched in 2019, where it would be preceded with 50, 25, 10 Ethereum. Essentially, I'm going to make it short for you guys because you can get into the maths of it and do the math on your own. But what that means is when people buy, if only 7 Ethereum is bought in the contract but by a couple different addresses, then those couple different addresses own 90% of everything that's going on. And what that means is later on the contract, if there's 100, 200, 300, or 1,000 Ethereum that's put into here, the people that put in that first 7 ETH can pull out like 80, 90, 100 Ethereum, like I said, 80 to 90%. And that's just the way these things work. The earlier you are, the better. And it's one of the reasons why I like the way that Gandiji's doing it with the NFTs and sort of distributing it amongst more people. So that's the only thing that concerns me a little bit. It might not sound like a lot, 7 ETH, but with these smart contracts, it is quite a bit. So you do have to sort of trust that the quote-unquote seed people, whoever is the 7 ETH seed, I think Oracle said he's putting in 5, and then the developers are putting in 2. You have to trust that they're not going to just dump everything on you, because they do have the ability to do that. If the contract gets 100 Ethereum and there's like, oh, we're done with this, it can drop dramatically if they decide to sell their 7 ETH seed stake. So just keep that in mind. Now, like I said, I've been around here for a while, so I know that Oracle's launched contracts in the past, and he hasn't done that in the beginning. Of course, everybody eventually sells everything eventually, not your Ethereum on these smart contracts forever, but his track record kind of checks out for the short term. A lot of times we look at these smart contracts and we're doing them not forever and ever and ever, but for the short term. You can still probably make a lot of Ethereum from this if you do trust. You have to trust. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but you have to trust Oracle and the developer to not dump on you immediately. Which, like I said, so far he's got a good track record for not doing that in the first week or so of the contract launching. And Gandiji, we'll talk about in another video, but they have the best track record of not dumping on you. They're the only P3D contract I think that's still around and from those days and still kind of doing things, which I think is deserving of the quote-unquote developer fee. So we'll see if POI is deserving of the developer fee, if they do similar things and stick around as long as Gandiji and do developments like what Gandiji is doing. Right? So we talked about the referral reward pool already. That's really not that important because it's not going to affect you whether people are using referrals or not. So let's talk about that real quick. So the baking in referrals, I've seen in the past when people launch these smart contracts, when you buy and you don't use a referral code, there have been some smart contracts that have launched where if you don't use a referral code, you instantly use another person's referral code, without knowing it, which is sort of nefarious, I guess. I don't know how you want to say it. It's sort of misleading. Again, it doesn't really affect you. It just makes the person whose referral code that's baked in the website a little bit more well off. But a lot of people would rather have that no referral code just go to the contract instead. So I'll be surprised if that's not in there. But again, that's neither here nor there. It's just more for the person whose referral code is baked in there. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Let's see here. Oh, this is the thing that I like. So we talked about the thing that I was a little bit worried about. The thing that I actually like about this is down here. It's called the anti-whale feature. So 10 Ethereum max withdrawal per day, which was a pretty big problem with the smart contracts, these P3D type of smart contracts in the past. Like I said, especially when we talked about the 7 ETH seed earlier, if later on they decide, oh, I'm done with this or I'm moving on to the next one, that 7 ETH seed people, like the Oracle and the creator of the contract, whoever has the 2 Ethereum, if they decide, yeah, we're done, we're gonna do another one, they can't just sell 50, 90, 100 Ethereum and take their funds and start a new one right away. It's 10 Ethereum per day. So that's going to be really good. Again, that has to be verified on the smart contract, hopefully. And that's, the case. I haven't really seen that feature on these smart contracts in the past. And I've been through a lot of these things, guys. Now, the thing you also want to keep in mind and you want to look for is making sure that transfers are not don't affect this. So what that means is with these POI tokens, quote unquote, I know they're not tokens. I know he's going to get me on that later. I know they're not technically tokens, but whatever. The POI that you're getting, if you're able to transfer that, then that could mess up this 10 ETH withdrawal per day. Hopefully that's not the case. Again, I have to look into it, but what that means is, let's just say somebody has 100 Ethereum worth of POI tokens, and then they just split and transfer 10 POI tokens to 10 different wallet addresses. Well, now they can just sell 10 ETH on every single wallet address, and they've sold 100 Ethereum in a single day. Hopefully that's not the case. That's the one thing that I'm going to be looking for once the smart contract is live. If transfers are available, hopefully it is tied into the 10 ETH withdrawal per day, and you can't transfer more than 10 Ethereum worth of POI tokens a day. So that's everything on the True POI. Overall, it looks pretty nice. Now, some other things to kind of keep in mind is with these smart contracts, like we're nowhere near the amount of people that were jumping into these things in the beginning. So, if all goes well, hopefully we do get a lot of traction. And these smart contracts run pretty much on word of mouth, right? They're a lot different than just tokens. With tokens and coins and altcoins, there can be trading activity, even if it's just a little bit of trading activity every single day. With these smart contracts, essentially what happens is once the hype dies down, once people are like, we're done with this, then the quote unquote trading activity goes to literally zero. And that's when you know people are done and it's going to go down, right? If no one is interested in it. So that's something to keep in mind. And the last thing to keep in mind with both this and Gandhi is I'm a little worried because I'm not worried, but the one thing that I liked in the past when there were so many people doing this was you had a lot of like nerds, Ethereum nerds that could really read these things and really just tell you fast if something fishy was going on either after the contract launched or before the contract launched, and they were able to tell you that. Now I don't think we have that. I think those crypto nerds of the past are not doing this stuff anymore, so it's a lot harder to verify if fishy stuff is going on in the back end. So that's two things I want to keep in mind for both True POI and with the Gandhi smart contract. Hopefully maybe the crypto nerds will come back and jump into this stuff, and maybe we'll get a resurgence of these of just smart contract activity on Ethereum. That would be nice. But that is everything today. Hopefully I jump into this. I don't know if I'm going to. Like, I want to, but I don't know if I'm going to. Just for the one simple reason, and the fact that this thing launches at 4 a.m. my time, when I'm probably going to get sleep. But maybe I'll set an alarm and try to be up on launch time and get into this in 5 days. I'll give you an update on that a little bit later. We're kind of making this video a little long. But that is my demystified version of True POI. So overall, like, TLDR, I think that this is a cool project. I think that the anti-whale feature is a cool thing to add. The only concern I have is, well, not really concern. The only concern that you should make sure that you know is that 7 ETH seed is a lot, and you do have to trust the people that are promoting this and running this to not dump on you too much. But hopefully that anti-whale feature will prevent that if that's effective. All right, guys, that is everything today. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you want to talk more about True POI or anything else, or if you have anything else. Check out my Telegram channel and drop it in my Telegram channel if you find anything else similar to this, different than this, or just that you want me to check out. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.